Ready to go? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Dill. I'm the Senate Chair of the ACF Committee, and I want to welcome you to today's meeting. And we're going to have updates today from the ACF department. And the first thing we will do is we'll go around and introduce ourselves, and I'll start with Representative McCray.
Oh, gracious. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dave McCray. I represent House District 148 up here in the county. Things have stabilized a little. It's a little warmer, 10 or 12 above zero. So glad to be with you and have a good day. Thank you.
Sam Schofield.
Good morning, Senator Dill. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom Schofield, and I represent House District 112. I live in the town of Well. And I represent 17 towns and townships in Franklin and Somerset counties, the High Peaks region of Maine, and it is like 34 degrees warmer here than it was yesterday morning.
Representative Osher.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lori Osher. I represent most of Orono. That's the home of the University of Maine.
Representative Bernard.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sue Bernard, and I represent District 149, which is Caribou, Westmanland, and New Sweden. Good morning to you.
Representative Landry.
Good morning. I'm Scott Landry. I live here in Farmington. I represent District 113, which includes Farmington and New Sharon, and it is snowing here. We hope we get a lot of it.
Representative O'Neill, House Chair.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Maggie O'Neill, and I represent House District 15, which is in Saco.
Senator Maxman.
Hi, I'm Chloe Maxman. I represent Senate District 13, which is all of Lincoln County minus Dresden plus Washington and Windsor.
Representative Pluker.
Hi, I'm Bill Pluker. I represent House District 95, which is Warren, Hope, Appleton, and part of Union. Warren, which is where Commissioner Beal lives. Welcome, Commissioner.
Representative Hall.
Good morning, Randy Hall, representing District 114, 6 towns in Southern Franklin County.
Senator Black.
Good morning, Senator Black, representing Senate District 17, which is all of Franklin County and 4 towns in Kennebec, Belgrade, Mount Vernon, Vienna, and Fayette.
And Representative Underwood.
Good morning. I'm Joseph Underwood from Presque Isle, Central Worcester County. Good to see everybody this morning and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. And our clerk is Cheryl McGowan, and our analyst is Karen Netto. And as I said, I'm Jim Dill. I represent Senate District number 5, which is Northern Penobscot County. And today's program is strictly going to be an update from the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Department. And we're going to start out with Commissioner Beal. Welcome, Commissioner. Yes, Representative Bernard.
Thank you so much. Sorry to interrupt. I should have said earlier on when I introduced myself that I'm going to have to duck out in about 5 or 10 minutes because I have another committee I have to go to, and then I'll try to get back in later on. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you so much for making the time this morning for us to talk with you. Should I just launch right in?
Launch right in, please.
Okay, and I will be providing you with this presentation in writing. So Representative Bernard, if you miss anything, you'll be able to catch right up. Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. Thank you for providing an opportunity for this briefing on some of the key areas of our work over the past several months. I am Amanda Beal, Commissioner of the Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, and I am joined here today by some of our key members of our staff who we can pull in a bit later, who along with me will be happy to answer any questions you have, or if we don't have the answers, we will go find them and bring them back to you. As you know, the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry stewards many of Maine's most treasured resources and the vibrant natural resource economy they foster. That includes things like preventing and fighting for forest fires, mapping the ocean floor, stewarding our parks and public lands, planning wise land use, supporting our forestry and agriculture sectors, and ensuring the safety and abundance of the food that we eat. Perhaps like no other branch of government, DACF touches the lives of every Maine person every single day in multiple ways. This is why we are committed to being a department that works for all of Maine's people. As legislators and as citizens, when you interact with the department, I hope you find what I do. Bureaus and programs staffed at every level with dedicated, knowledgeable, professional, and creative public servants who are excited to support Maine's people and some of our most iconic industries and pastimes. This morning, we will be sending you, if we have not already, a lightly updated version of a briefing book that we shared at this time last year. It provides a good refresher on how DACF is structured and who some of our key staff are. So I won't cover that ground today, except to point out that after more than 30 years of public service to the state of Maine, most recently as the Bureau Director for Resource Information and Land Use Planning, and also as our state geologist, Dr. Bob Marvini retired over the summer. He is already greatly missed. However, we are very fortunate that Judy East, who has been serving as the Executive Director of the Land Use Planning Commission, was up for the challenge of directing BRILUP and its critically important programs, including LUPC. Judy has been in her new role since November 1. And I will highlight some other key DACF staff transitions later if we have time. They're definitely in this briefing document. So if we don't get to that, you can review that on your own. But I did want to point out this change as you'll see this modification in the briefing book that we are sending out. So I'd now like to focus on the incredible work that our 4 bureaus, 110 programs, and approximately 700 staff members have recently accomplished. First off, reporting. As you know, each year we submit approximately 20 standing reports on topics as diverse as the state of our forests, the activities of the Maine Harness Racing Commission, and LUPC's annual water certification. In addition, this year we have provided, mainly at the request of the legislature, 15 additional reports. I'm not going to name them all. They are listed in this briefing. There are a lot of them, and I hope you enjoy reading them. There's a lot of good work there. And in addition to those reports, we've also played a key role in a couple of reports that have come out related to the Maine Climate Council. And we've also included a list here of the regular reports that we send to you just so that you can have them all in one place. I will say that with literally thousands of people hours exerted by staff in our numerous programs and the Commissioner's Office in doing research, listening to stakeholders, gathering and disseminating information, compiling and reviewing these reports, one might be surprised that we had time to manage the work and programs central to the department's mission. But as you will see from the following summaries, that again only shine a light on our staff's accomplishments over the past several months, I assure you that we did, and we did so with passion, dedication, and teamwork that we all know is at the heart of the work of DACF. So let me start with some emergent issues that we have been tackling, mainly pandemic impacts, ARPA and CARES Act funding that we've been investing in Maine, PFAS contamination, the severe market disruption for dairy, Maine's work to end hunger by 2030, and our department contributions to meeting our state climate action plan goals. Let's start with pandemic impacts. As many of you might know already, we are still primarily asking people to work from home if and when they can to minimize exposure. But fortunately, a lot of the work our department does happens out of doors and in the field. And we have a great record of continuing that work uninterrupted and safely. We are sorry that we've had to forego a number of in-person events for a second year in a row, and that's really top of mind as this is the week of the Agricultural Trade Show, which we are running on a virtual platform. So I hope that you'll look into the program and participate as fully as you can, or review some of the recordings that have already taken place over the past few days. One other complication tied to the pandemic is that we have broken records on a lot of fronts. and that has increased the demand for our services across many areas of our work. We saw an all-time record-breaking 1,150 forest fires in 2021, and another high from our previously standing average of about 450 fires per year, with 652 wildland fires in 2021. The previous number, I believe, was 2020, involving 27 residences and 53 other structures. And we know that this upward trend has implications on our firefighting capacity. We've also counted record numbers of visitors to our parks and public lands. In fact, we've broken the 3 million visitor mark for parks in the last 2 years and are seeing evidence of high utilization in some of our most remote parks and public lands. And we really don't see that trend reversing. We've also been fielding disruptions in food supply and processing and helping consumers and producers alike to get their needs met, while also dealing with a surge in food insecurity. Through all of this, I've been so impressed with the level of collaboration among staff in all 4 of our bureaus. So investing in CARES and ARPA funds. Last session, the legislature approved Governor Mills' American Rescue Plan Act proposal to allocate nearly $20 million to support agricultural infrastructure development and $50 million for state parks to improve aging and inadequate infrastructure. The $50 million allocated for parks and critical maintenance is equally important. Commissioner's Office and Bureau of Parks and Land staff are collaborating with the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan review team and DAFs to ensure that any projects we plan to undertake with ARPA funding meet Treasury guidance and that we are in line with procurement procedures for the state in inviting bids and establishing contracts for these projects. This funding will support urgent infrastructure improvements at state parks to accommodate the significantly increased use seen during the pandemic. It will also help bolster recreational and tourism activities. And even before the passage of ARPA, the department was working in concert with DECD and DMR to survey Maine's agriculture, forestry, and fisheries sectors to determine specific investment priorities within our heritage industries. The data we collected in that process helped to make the case for the overall $50 million allocated to these heritage industry sectors, which again was $20 million for agriculture, $20 million for forestry, which is being administered by Maine Technology Institute, and $10 million for fisheries, which is being administered by DMR. Further, we engaged the University of Maine School of Economics to study the potential economic impact of investments in four priority areas: dairy processing, meat processing, grain storage and drying, and fruit and vegetable co-packing and processing. We've also gathered input from many of our stakeholders through one-on-one discussions, interviews, and webinars, and together these feedback channels shape the development of the recently launched Agricultural Infrastructure Investment Program, and also gives us confidence that the investments we will make through this program will meet well-documented needs that are positioned to have significant impact. The AAIP, which will provide nearly $20 million directly to Maine's farmers or will provide over $19 million directly to Maine's farmers and food processors to improve critical infrastructure, was formally launched on December 23rd, 2021. DACF is partnering with Coastal Enterprises Incorporated, or CEI, to administer AAIP. Program materials are available online now, and applications are being accepted from January 14th to February 25th. This month, DACF is co-hosting a series of informational webinars about AIIP. DACF was intentional in its selection of Coastal Enterprises as the third-party administrator for this grant program, noting in particular their ability to offer hands-on technical support and interpretive services for prospective applicants, including those for whom English is not their primary language. You may also recall that DACF collaborated with CEI to rapidly distribute more than $17 million of CARES Act funding to farmers and food pantries last year in the form of reimbursement grants to assist with increased expenses incurred by addressing the challenges of the pandemic. DACF has also coordinated with volunteer grant writing support services, including SCORE mentors, that have direct experience surrounding agriculture funding to support applicants of both the CARES and ARPA funded grant programs. CARES funding created other big impacts earlier in 2021. Over 400 farm businesses were able to leverage those dollars to respond to the pandemic and how it had reshaped consumer demand and the workforce. One farm invested in buying and sorting and bagging equipment they needed to pivot from selling to food service accounts to direct-to-consumer sales. Another installed greenhouse infrastructure as part of a direct-to-consumer expansion that includes pick your own vegetables. And yet another farm invested in a new green tank and auger system that allowed the farm to establish on-site capacity and avoid delays associated with outsourced processing. There are literally hundreds more examples I could cite, all of which are testaments to the creativity and resilience of Maine's farmers. On PFAS, the department's work contending with PFAS contamination is among the most challenging issues currently before the department, and that is not likely to change anytime soon. Maine has found itself nationally at the forefront of PFAS response and in steering the federal government to meaningfully engage on this issue. Our urgency has been necessary to safeguard the viability of our farms and the health of our people. Since engaging on the PFAS task force in 2019, DACF has closely collaborated with Maine CDC and DEP, and more recently worked alongside IF&W regarding the state's PFAS response, with DACF's particular focus being assisting PFAS-impacted farms. In 2021, we worked intensively with one farm to significantly reduce PFAS contamination in milk through ongoing soil, feed, and milk testing and modifications to input sourcing and resource management. We worked with another farmer to voluntarily reduce livestock and indemnify the producer for the value of those animals. The Bureau hired one new staff member to work with producers, and an additional hiring effort continues for a PFAS coordinator position. We are also working closely with our colleagues at the University of Maine Cooperative Extension, MOFGA, Maine Farmland Trust, and others to share information, resources, and collaborate on strategies to support farmers seeking PFAS guidance and support. We also continue to explore potential avenues for critical PFAS research to provide valuable information to farmers regarding PFAS impacts, transit, and uptake in crops to allow them to make management decisions and adjustments. And we consistently update the Maine delegation regarding our activities so they can champion along with us for further federal action regarding PFAS, including the need for national standards and greater federal support for impacted citizens and farmers. Much more PFAS work is on the immediate horizon. Last session, the legislature directed Maine DEP to test the soil and water of every location in the state that has accepted sludges or biosolids by 2025. That is anticipated to be over 700 sites, and our department will be working closely with DEP every step of the way to assist any farms that are found through that process. We continue to learn more about PFAS in various crops and livestock, and will follow a data-driven process with individual farms to assess the source or sources of contamination and attempt to help eliminate or mitigate it so that their farms can remain viable. The circumstances of each farm are unique, and our approach will be calibrated to the needs of these farms. Because of the funding approved in the last budget, DACF is poised to underwrite comprehensive testing at farms and provide water filtration systems where necessary. The department is also continuing to assess how and where it can offer indemnification to producers. Given the resource-intensive activities that our PFAS response requires, as well as the costs associated with assisting more farms, we anticipate that ongoing state budgetary support for PFAS response work will be required. On the dairy front, when Danone/Horizon announced that by August 2023, it would end its contract with 14 Maine organic dairy farms, that's 89 altogether in New England and New York, DACF moved quickly to try to protect and assist these farms. We were among the first to push back and insist that Danone do more for our farmers, advocacy that eventually resulted in Danone's announcement that they would extend contracts for an additional 6 months and offer transition payments to impacted farmers. We supported the governor and her public appeals, both to Horizon to change course and to the USDA to provide meaningful relief to our farmers, as well as to finalize the origin of livestock rule to level the playing field for all certified organic farms, dairy farms across the country. On the latter, we were pleased to hear just recently that the USDA has finally submitted the rule to OMB for review, and we've provided a link in this document that you can go to if you want to track the progress of that rule. And recognizing that no one could compel Danone to stay in the Northeast, we organized a working group of service providers to meet farmer needs by, among other things, identifying sources of financial support, connecting farms with alternative trucking and marketing options, and supporting the retirement and succession planning of those farmers deciding to leave the industry. These meetings continue to happen bi-weekly. Alongside commissioners and secretaries of agriculture from other impacted states, I have personally met multiple times with USDA Secretary Tom Vilsack. He assures us that the USDA will support efforts to address the challenges our displaced dairy farmers are facing. With regional partners, the department has also engaged in the Northeast Dairy Task Force, a group of 27 organizations, including state departments of agriculture, cooperative extension, organic processors, organic associations, farm technical assistance providers, and subject matter experts, who worked to provide the USDA with actionable recommendations to respond to and support the Northeast region's dairy sector in response to Danone's actions. Some of these proposals include advocating for state and regional processing and marketing opportunities through a variety of outlets, including state block grant funding, the local food promotion program, and community-funded projects, which could help organic and conventional farmers alike. We have reason to believe those appeals are finding a receptive audience in Washington, D.C., and are appreciative that Secretary Vilsack has been personally engaged in these conversations. We understand also that all dairy farms are struggling to remain viable, and we recognize that both conventional and organic dairies hold a very important space in our agriculture community, which is why, as you know, we tested in support of LD 1805 earlier this week. Various staff within the department will continue to engage in conversations regarding in-state and regional processing, marketing, and consumer education related to dairy. On food insecurity and ending hunger. This year, the department completed Everyone at the Table, Maine's Plan to End Hunger by 2030, which you should be getting a draft of very soon if you haven't already. The plan was requested and authorized through the 129th Legislature's LD 1159. Those of you serving on this committee in the 129th will recall that on February 10th, 2020, the department delivered, and on March 3rd, 2020, I presented to you an interim report called Ending Hunger in Maine by 2030. This committee unanimously endorsed the recommendations of that report. However, the legislature's emergency adjournment 2 weeks later meant that a supplemental appropriation to fund plan making was never authorized. But nevertheless, we at the department believed the work was so critical that we worked to secure outside funding to move forward. We're very grateful to our 4 funders of this initiative, the Elmina B. Sewell Foundation, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare Foundation, John T. Gorman Foundation, and Hannaford Supermarkets. Our planning process began with evidence-based strategies and success stories from work in other communities and around the globe. We then leveraged expertise across state government. Contributing departments included education, economic and community development, health and human service, transportation, labor, and the office of the state economist, and the governor's office on policy, innovation, and the future. Finally, in a series of 42 convenings last summer, this cohort was joined by a broad swath of legislators. I should say those were virtual convenings, nonprofit and business leaders, educators, policy experts, and concerned Maine people, engaging approximately 200 contributors in the process through several core teams and support teams. And notably, contributors included Mainers with lived and living experience of hunger. We have a high degree of confidence that the recommendations in this plan draw on essential lessons from elsewhere while reflecting the unique nature of the problem in Maine and the priorities of Maine people, and we look forward to talking more about next steps when you take up LD 174, which I believe is next week. The plan provides a roadmap for simultaneously meeting the food needs of Maine people today while addressing economic and social conditions so that the problem does not continue to occur going forward. After all, the state resolved to end hunger, not treat it. Even before the plan was completed, we stood up a new AmeriCorps Vista program to add capacity to state agencies and community partners who are moving us toward a hunger-free Maine. Right now, we have 16 Vista members and 2 Vista leaders serving 12 organizations, ranging from the Aroostook County Action Program to Good Shepherd Food Bank to the Somali Bantu Community Association, as well as the Departments of Health and Human Services, Education, Economic and Community Development, and also here at within our department. Next year, we expect to have 25 members in service, something that will bring over $613,000 in federal resources into the state. It's been an honor for DACF to steward this work up to this point, and the work going forward will require a great deal of interdisciplinary collaboration and coordination. And as that is the foundation this plan was built upon, we are confident that we are well poised to benefit from this strong collaboration. On the topic of support for local foods, this was something that we knew that you all were interested in hearing about as well. Every day, we're working to create more market opportunities for Maine food. Through our grant and loan programs, we fund programs that support local foods, and we offer technical and marketing support so Maine producers can increase their market share. One example, last summer, we learned that Maine's $200 million summer camp industry was struggling to source food amidst pandemic supply chain disruptions. Our agriculture resource development team created resources connecting camps with local distribution and sourcing alternatives, which they later buttressed with the Real Maine Wholesale Directory, a resource that will permanently allow for institutional and wholesale buyers to easily find local producers. Our economic development and ARD staff have been working tirelessly in uncovering and developing solutions to our infrastructure and processing needs, and we're on track to fill our farm to institution and wholesale market development position this spring. We've done an immense amount of work that synergizes our commitment to bolstering food security with our dedication to expanding markets for Maine producers. A few highlights. We're readying the RFP for LD 691s, an act to support farms and address food insecurity, with an aim to disperse the first $25,000 this May. We piloted a farm to food bank program to provide green blueberries to food pantries in Washington and Hancock counties, and will expand that program this year. Through the Farm Food Access Program, we continue to partner with DHHS to provide EBT equipment to farmers markets to increase access to local food for people who use federal nutrition benefits. We've also just completed the first 2-year contract on LD 786, which was an act to reduce hunger and promote Maine agriculture from the 129th legislative session, which channeled $2 million to Good Shepherd Food Bank's Mainers Feeding Mainers program. The second RFP just closed, and the new award will be made late this winter or early in the spring. We're expanding the geographic and demographic reach of Maine's senior farm share, and we are working on a proposal through the USDA's new Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement Program that would channel $780,000 per year of federal dollars to local farmers to benefit them and low-income Maine families. On the Maine Climate Action Plan, DACF staff across the department have been very involved in the implementation of various goals embedded in the state's Climate Action Plan. I serve on the Climate Council and continue to co-chair the Natural and Working Lands Working Group, and a number of our staff also chair, serve on, or staff working groups. Notably, in the past year, we have moved forward on recommendations and an executive order from the governor to form and seek recommendations from a Forest Carbon Program task force. This report was completed and presented to the governor last month. And we are also underway with work on a soil carbon study with the University of Maine and IFNW, and all 4 of our bureaus are engaged in that work. This work was initiated by LD 937, the resolve to facilitate the provision of incentives for soil carbon storage. In addition, over the past year, various DACF program staff have been working with other natural resource-based agencies to look at opportunities to collaborate on meeting cross-cutting goals, as well as looking at the practices and policies within their own programs for ways to enhance our overall response to climate impacts and mitigation opportunities. At this time, what I have before me is about 10 pages of bureau updates, of which I'm not going to read all of to you because, one, my voice is starting to sort of wear out, and 2, because we are going to provide this to you, as I said. I will just take a moment, maybe a couple of minutes, to run through some highlights, and I just encourage you to really spend some time with this document. There's a lot of good information here. And as I said, we have bureau directors and others waiting in the wings here to answer any questions, or if there's something I haven't touched on that you want to know about, we'll certainly be able to do that. But so just before I turn to bureau updates, I want to acknowledge what a tremendous job our department staff have done in navigating through the many challenges brought to our work by the pandemic. And I also want to share my deep appreciation to the leadership of our bureau directors and key staff in the Commissioner's office, as well as the leadership I see in action coming from every single corner of our department each and every day. I appreciate this opportunity to present to you, but I really encourage you to read this document in full. There's so much work happening within our bureaus, and we can only scratch the surface here in the time that we've put aside. So in the Bureau of Forestry, a couple of different highlights I will pull out here, and I'm just scrolling through because
Amanda, excuse me, before you go into the bureau highlights,
Sure.
Let's see if there's any questions to this point of view. I saw our Representative Pluka had his hand up, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I just didn't have a copy of any of the stuff you're reading or what you were going through. And so I didn't know if Karen or had it, that it could be sent out real quick so we could kind of go along with you. Just makes it a little easier to.
Yeah, sorry. We were planning to send it over afterward, thinking that you would want to spend more time with it at that point in time.
Okay. And I'll wait on questions on stuff you've said already till later. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. I guess there are no other questions at this time. We'll wait until, the rest of the bureau directors get in.
Okay, great. And again, like I said, I'm just going to give you a couple of highlights from a few different program areas in each bureau. So I'm not going to go into great depth here. In the Bureau of Forestry, our Forest Protection Division completed 39,517 inspections and enforcement cases this year, and 14,906 educational and outreach events statewide, all during, as I noted earlier, another high fire year. And our fleet of aircraft has been busy keeping those fires small and responding to 24 requests for hiker rescues. And I will add that we greatly appreciate the legislature's support for updating our aerial fleet. And we are working right now diligently to source aircraft that we have on the horizon. And so we'll probably give you more of an update on that as that initiative continues. And there are 2 prospective aircrafts that we're currently exploring at this time. In forest policy and management. One thing I want to say actually before I move on, earlier this month, Bill Hamilton, our chief ranger for the past, and who has been with the state for 42 years, retired. And so we do have a new chief ranger, which is Robbie Gross. And I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting him at some point in time during the legislative session. And so we wanted to highlight that Maine is part of the New England and New York Securing Northeast Forest Carbon Program. It's It's funded by the USDA Forest Service and is helping our 7-state partnership get the latest information to private landowners so they can make carbon smart decisions about their management practices. We've also started the process of getting all appropriate forestry staff trained in the program. And in 2021, district foresters engaged with small landowners representing just under 300,000 acres. Staff also participated in or hosted 181 outreach and education events for loggers, landowners, and foresters. Next up is the Bureau of Resource Information and Land Use Planning. In the main geological survey, the sea level rise ticker and dashboard provides monthly information on tides and sea level rise trends at 6 locations from Kittery to Eastport. The information is not available in a timely manner from the federal government, so it's important that we continue to collect it. Not surprisingly, trends and implications for coastal communities are not good, and once we get December data, 2021 will likely break new high water level records. In addition, for the Maine Natural Areas Program, they've completed or continued implementation of Maine Won't Wait strategies, including employing new efficient remote sensing methods to find locations of rare small-scale wetland types in southern Maine, undertaking the first full assessment of the state's native flora to provide a baseline for change in species distribution and abundances as the climate warms, producing an update to marsh migration modeling given updated sea level rise projections, and offering free pre-acquisition review of proposed conservation projects with mapped natural resource information and climate resiliency modeling data. In the floodplain management program, this year's Maine floodplain management program ranked 15th nationwide and 2nd among the New England states, with proficiency scoring in FEMA's first ever tiered state framework, a comprehensive evaluation of state floodplain management programs. As for Lands for Maine's Future, I want to thank this committee and the legislature once again for including that $40 million allocation in the budget. As you know, LMF is our most important vehicle for conserving land for its natural and recreational value. LMF has helped protect landscapes that are both cherished by Maine people and draw visitors from around the globe. The inclusion of working lands and working waterfronts in program priorities also means that LMF is essential to the natural resource industries that hold the key to Maine's prosperity. And then I will move forward. I will say that LMF has issued 2 calls for proposals connected with our conservation and recreation funds. The first RFP, which closed on December 30th, attracted 5 proposals for just over $3 million to protect about 8,500 acres. The LMF board will meet later this month to decide on those. And the second RFP, which closes on April 1, produced 37 letters of inquiry, and those projects will be decided on in July. And LMF anticipates issuing a working farmland access and protection program with a request for proposals in early 2022. The Municipal Planning Assistance Program made 5 coastal community grants for projects including climate resilience planning, septic vulnerability analysis, the development of model ordinances, and other tools for resilient development master planning. And in LUPC, with Judy East moving into the BRILUP director position, we're fortunate to have a very qualified candidate from within LUPC to step into new leadership. Stacy Beyer has been with LUPC for 7 years and became the acting executive director for the commission on November 1. And I will move along here to the Bureau of Parks and Lands. And a couple of highlights here. So after, as I mentioned previously, after record-setting 2020 season, Maine state parks welcomed even more visitors in 2021. State park campgrounds hosted more than 315,000 visitor nights, and overall day use in state parks topped 3.2 million. Fully 1 million more visitors than in 2005. It's a nice fact. Crowd control and COVID safety continued to be substantial challenges in 2021 and were exacerbated by challenges in hiring entry-level seasonal staff. Also, after more than 6 years of negotiations, the Bureau acquired the 32-mile Madison Branch Rail Trail from Pan Am Railways. The rail trail will connect several communities extending from Oakland to Emden. The Bureau's off-road vehicle division program funds augmented the primary funding secured from the Land for Maine's Future program and the Northern Border Regional Commission. The Bureau's efforts now turn to funding and work needed to convert the railbed into a multi-use trail that will support both motorized and non-motorized recreation. Also, after several years in construction, the Bureau opened the Great Circle Trail, a 35-plus-mile backpacking trail in the Namacanta public lands in the 100-mile wilderness region of Maine. With heightened outdoor use across the state, the Great Circle Trail offers a new multi-day hiking destination in a region of spectacular scenery. And for the Bureau of Agriculture, I will highlight under the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TFAP, the Bureau's Agricultural Resource Division received USDA food donations and bonus offerings valued at over $5.5 million for food insecure Mainers in 2021. In fall 2021, we hired a new TFAP acting director, Jimmy Durda. We piloted the Healthy Acadia Farm to Food Bank TFAP project to harvest and process blueberries, as I mentioned previously, and distributed an average of 7,500 commodity supplemental food program boxes each month to low-income seniors. In addition, the Maine Meat and Poultry Inspection Program underwent a rigorous triannual USDA audit in June and performed admirably. In addition, MMPI has increased the number of state inspected plants from 5 in 2019 to 8 in 2021. We're also working to identify and address bottlenecks in the meat supply chain. And I think in the interest of time, I'm going to stop here because there are a number of other highlighted areas, but that just gives you a very tip of the iceberg idea of some of the things that we've been working on. So I will stop here. And if we want to bring through the other staff that are with us today to answer any questions, I'd be happy to turn to that. I will just mention Andy Cutco, Bureau Director for Parks and Lands, is under the weather, so not able to join us today. So I think we have we had to replace him with, I think, 2 people from the Bureau of Parks and Lands to be on call to answer any questions.
Representative Schofield, while Cheryl is bringing folks in, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Senator Dill. Thank you for being here, Commissioner Beal. It's a pleasure to see you again. I have a couple of things that are concerns. And one is that the increase in park use is demonstratively shown that the parks are under pressure. And the staffing level of Maine state parks is essentially the same, or perhaps even in some areas less than it was a couple of 3 decades ago. I'm wondering if the department is considered reviewing staffing at state parks and reviewing the need for increased staffing at state parks, or reallocating staffing at state parks. And basically the training needs, the enforcement needs, the compliance needs are definitely growing. They're not lessening. And I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on that, or if there has been any discussion about that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Representative Schofield, for that question. This is absolutely something that's top of mind for us. We know that in the immediate future, we definitely could use some more capacity. But beyond that, we have been working, our staff have been working on exactly the kind of report that you're talking about to assess, staffing needs, what would be adequate, what are some of the areas where we need more capacity. And that draft report is literally in my inbox right now, and I look forward to looking at it in the very near future. And I don't know if Ron Hunt might want to say something more to that, as he's here with us.
Follow up, Senator Dill, if I might.
Sure.
I'm also, I've noted that there's a $50 million ARPA funding that's being addressed in parks. And I know that for years, there's been a long laundry list of projects and things that need to be accomplished, which never get accomplished. For instance, I'm well aware that the road system, that the entrance road into Sebago Lake State Park, for instance, is more than half a century since that has been paved. That's over 50 years since some of those roads have been repaved, and they're basically potholes upon potholes upon potholes that have been filled. Do you have any indication about when these funds might be actually available? I know you're looking at making sure you're doing it the right way and that they all line up and make the approval of the feds and all of that. But do you have any indication of that? Can we expect to see something accomplished in 2022, or is it going to be further out, do you think? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for, yes, and thank you for acknowledging that we are having to work through a process to make sure that we don't spend the money in a way that will be incompatible with the Treasury guidelines. And so we really appreciate the work. There are a lot of staff at DAFS that are spending time on this and helping us work through that process. We absolutely are aware of the condition of the roads and a number of other, key areas where we want to make improvements. So we do have an inventory of projects. We're really excited to get going. So as soon as we have, checked off all the boxes on the administrative side of things, we are going to be really excited to get going. And I do feel like we will have projects underway in 2022. I feel confident about that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Underwood had his hand up first for a while, so it kind of blends in. I just want to
Yes, it does. Sorry about that, Representative Underwood.
Hi, good morning, Commissioner. Thank you very much for coming. I had a couple of problems or situations. The first one is just a comment in regarding your new aircraft. If you could extend sometime when time permits an invitation to all this committee to take a ride in the aircraft, it would be appreciated. I'm sure everybody would appreciate it. The second one is on feral cats. Is there any funds available for assisting with fixing feral cats by some of these vets, reimbursing them on a more timely basis? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, we were Patty Cormier, the director of our Bureau of Forestry, and I were talking about how when we get our first aircraft that we purchased from from our funds, excuse me, that maybe we should have some sort of a celebration and have people come out to see it and learn more about our aerial program. And then as far as the feral cats question goes, I think I'd like to just turn to Nancy McBrady, because she's been doing a lot of really good work with our animal welfare program and evaluating their processes and looking at ways in which we can elevate that work and improve that work. So Nancy, would you like to take that question?
Sure. Good morning, Representative. Thank you for that question. Under the Help Fix Me program, feral cats can be and are part of that process whereby veterinarians may perform that surgery on those animals. And we've instituted a process where the copay that is typically required of participants can be waived specifically for feral cats. So that is part of that process. We certainly understand that there is a need to make sure that the process for reimbursing veterinarians is sped up. And we have instituted a process when those arrive at our animal welfare office, that we are entering them into the system at a higher and more efficient pace. So we are in that effort right now to resolve those extended periods by which veterinarians have been waiting for the payment. And if there's anything that I missed, I will ask my team to make sure that they give me that information and I can pass it back to you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The commissioner had referenced a staffing report and said that Ron Hunt could share a little more about that. And I'd love to hear a little more. And she did mention that you guys are working on Treasury guideline compliance, but I'd love to hear a little more about the kinds of things that you're planning for those funds as well.
I think Ron's trying to unmute. Ron, okay.
Staffing report. This is a result of an LD that was passed a couple of years ago, 1246, which tasked the Bureau to assess each location according to a number of different criteria in order to address and recommend a minimum staffing level at each and every state park that we have. We spent the better part of eight months going through all of the criteria and preparing a report. It's a significant departure. It addresses what Representative Schofield commented on, which is the continuous erosion of staff over the last decades. Conceptually, basically what it does is it looks at the staffing levels at entrance booths, enforcement, maintenance tasks, and it tries to anticipate the full range of operations from start to end. In some cases, in day use areas, that's from 9 a.m. until sunset. At campgrounds, it is a 24-hour operation in some cases. So it attempts to provide adequate levels of staffing at all hours of the open day in order to provide health and safety and protection of our visitors, and to also protect our infrastructure, et cetera. It's resulted in a recommendation according to the directive that was contained in the statute for a significant increase in staffing levels. Whether that comes to pass or not, it's going to have to be reviewed. It complies with all of the elements of that statute. It did not pull any punches in terms of limits on costs or limits on the amount of staff. It recommended the amount of staff that was necessary in order to adequately provide those protections at each and every state park. It also addressed regional needs as well, recognizing that the number of regions was also affected in 1995, and it's very comprehensive. It's only been recently delivered to the commissioner, and we have not yet had an opportunity to brief her more completely on it. And it's a daunting volume. It's a 3.5-inch binder, and it's literally filled with data. So that's my update on the staffing survey. There was another, I believe, question involved regarding ARPA funds, and I'll go back to one of Representative Schofield's points about the terrible condition that several of our park road networks are in. We recognize that. We have been partnering and collaborating with Maine Department of Transportation. They have a program where they allow municipalities, and we're looking into the procedures and protocols for state parks to piggyback on existing DOT contracts when they are paving state roads in an area. We're still working our way through the processes that are required both on DOT's side of the equation as well as the state side. As you well know, I think the Maine Department of Transportation has its own bureaucracy, their own rules, et cetera. State government operates on a completely set of rules. We're trying to integrate those and be ready when funds are hopefully allocated and deemed eligible for pavement overlays in order to address that situation. Representative O'Neill, could you refresh my memory in terms of other questions you might have had?
Thanks. I think that was a good summary. I look forward to seeing what you all recommend based on that staffing report. And yeah, my second question was about plans for ARPA funds. You mentioned roads. Anything else in mind?
A couple of years ago, I believe we provided a 2004 study that had identified almost $50 million worth of infrastructure needs. It ranged from replacement of leach fields, toilet buildings, redesign of toilet buildings in order to comply with concerns about the COVID-19 pandemic. Trail improvements, boat launch improvements. It runs the gamut. And if you have a copy of that 2004 engineering study that basically reviewed all of state parks infrastructure needs, that's what it was based on. And obviously in the ensuing almost 2 decades, we've attempted to include other like projects that may have cropped up over those years that are in those same categories.
Yeah, and I will just add that we've also talked a bit about the need to upgrade some of our gatehouses, both for better staff, safety and comfort, as well as to make them more functional.
Thank you.
Madam Fluker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a series of questions. I'm sure everybody's surprised by that, but I might start with the Maine meat program. And I know I was going to encourage Senator Black if you had any questions about local meat and stuff that maybe he could chime in here. But I know we had LD 351 back in the 129th, and just checking to see if we made any progress on rulemaking on that. There was language in there, like the word similar, and it might be difficult to take enforcement action unless we have clear rules around it. And if there has been any enforcement action around looking at processors of meat from away that is being labeled as local or as from Maine. And then just kind of cluing in is, we've been talking about bottlenecks in our local process, in our state-run processing facilities, and we hear anecdotes, at least, of animals being brought in from out of state and taking up a lot of slots in those facilities, and how some enforcement around some of what is labeled local and how it's sold, even if it might be an animal from away, might help with some of those bottlenecks. And for any, maybe Director McBrady would be the best answer.
Yeah, I think I'll turn it to Director McBrady. I don't know if perhaps Emily Horton, who's our policy director, might have something to add about rulemaking, but let's start with Nancy.
Good morning, Representative Fluker. The Maine Meat and Poultry Inspection Program continues to be available to investigate complaints of those who would allege that there's mislabeling occurring around the term local. To date, we've only received one, and that I believe was over a year ago, which was investigated and was deemed not to be out of compliance with the current legislation. We have talked about rulemaking. It has not occurred to date, given other activities within the program. I do think that it is something, and we know that it is of interest to not only members of this committee, but to the local producer and livestock producer environment to continue to look into to do. I have spent a lot of time this year, last year, working on the LD 493 meat processing bottlenecks, and that report is going to be provided in the near future, and hopefully some of our recommendations that come out of that will help ease that just overarching break that is holding back the processing industry here in the state of Maine. In our listening sessions, the term local has been mentioned. The real critical issues that have been raised first and foremost are the lack of labor and skilled training, and really the management tools that are necessary to help these processors just unspool the heavy load of demand that they are feeling right now, I think is key first and foremost. We have asked the Attorney General's office to help us look into what we believe is a violation of a trademark, the Get Real, Get Maine old trademark. That is in process. I don't have an update for you on that, given the workload that they are facing, but I'm hopeful that by pursuing this, what we see as misuse of that trademark could lead to some significant conversations around the use of the term local. And I do think, to your point about the existing statute, what is defined in statute, I believe, is Maine raised. And there are significant criteria around what that means. And then there's additional language that is softer and has not yet been defined. And I think that really is the area of exploration that I understand you're most interested in. And so I don't mean to, not be responsive, but it is part of this overarching effort of trying to look into how we can help processors first and foremost, be able to meet the demand that they have right now. And then as a next step, really look into, okay, and then what is being labeled so that it is most accurately reflecting the current rules and regulations.
Thank you. I think that was a great answer. I'm really
a couple more questions, Representative Pluker, then I'll come back to you. But we have other hands up, so go ahead. Continue, Bill.
Sorry, I was just gonna say thank you so much for that answer. That was great. Really appreciate hearing that action is being taken with the AG, and yeah, and it's Maine raised or similar, and that's that soft language you're referring to. That would be great to firm up within that. And did you want me to ask a question or just let?
Yeah, go ahead and ask. You said you had a series of questions, so I said go a couple more, and then we'll let some others, and I'll come back to you.
I think your answer did lead to another kind of question, which was around labor. And I heard from the Maine Dairy MDIA that that there might be a federal grant coming in to help with labor. Is that, I'm looking for details around that, if that's just designated towards labor, if that's going to help in other ways, or if there's kind of programs within, because we are seeing that shortage of labor and difficulty in getting people to come and work on farms or work in processing facilities. If there is any kind of programming that we're doing to try to address some of those wide scale labor issues that we're all facing.
Absolutely. That is another key hitch that is being faced by our producers, especially in dairy. We do have a conversation scheduled with MDIA to further discuss their needs and their desires, and also learn about what they see on the horizon. So we will be digging into that grant that they referenced. I do know that one of the more desired federal change for folks within the dairy industry would to adjust the current H-2A program to allow for those citizens, those migrant workers who come in to be able to stay year round and not have to leave after a certain period of time. That obviously is a federal fix, but it is something that, you know, if needed and requested by our dairy farmers, which I believe they have asked, you know, it's something that we can champion as well. So to your specific question about the grant, we need to learn more about that. But if it seems that it's viable and that we can assist with, we will jump right on that.
Go ahead, Representative, another one. Yep.
Yeah, are there apprenticeship programs or anything that we're currently doing from within the department that could kind of trying to bring up the folks who are here who might not be thinking of agriculture as a way of life one day?
Our department does not have an apprenticeship program. In the work that I've been doing around the meat processing, I've had some nice conversations with the Department of Labor about their existing apprenticeship programs, and really want to be able to shine a light on that for our producers to take advantage of those existing resources. And I also want to see if there might be some similarities that can, you know, be broadcast or over for agriculture in general. Also, the Maine Community College system has some apprenticeship programs too. So that's an area to dig into further. And then, you know, of course, some of our ag service providers, MAFCA, you know, have, you know, essentially apprenticeship programs too that we want to be able to allow people to know more about. And we have our ag labor link too, which is something that we essentially try and bring people towards to see existing ag work that is available in the state right now. So we don't have an apprenticeship program, but I do think that there are opportunities that we may just need to investigate further in other areas of the state apparatus that might be a good fit.
Thank you. I'll ask the next questions later.
Yep. Representative Schofield.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Thank you, Ron, Mr. Hunt, for your information earlier. I have a follow-up to the $50 million ARAP funds, and that is, can you share with this committee, at least in a document or something, about what the Bureau intends to do going forward? I realize there's a process that has to be undertaken in order to get this funding. It has to meet certain criteria, certain approvals from the feds. But you must have, I'm assuming you must have a plan or items that you'd intend to move forward, at least initially. And could you send us those items and also give us an expected timeline of when those items might be accomplished, and also where you're at in that process, you know, where your communications with the feds and those who have to make the approval, where are we in all of that? Could you get us some information regarding that so we can sort of be up to speed as to where the Bureau is right now, so that we can kind of have an indication of what we might be seeing accomplished within the next 12 months, say, for instance? Is that something you could provide us? Thank you.
Yeah, yes, I think we could certainly provide you with a summary. The only caveat that I would say is that I think we all know that supply chains are disrupted. And so a lot of construction projects don't go exactly as planned on, you know, well-meaning timelines, even informed timelines. So, you know, we'll reflect that. It's something we can provide to the best of our knowledge. This is how we hope to proceed. If everything goes.
Yeah, it's fully understood that the best laid plans of mice and men can get altered due to unforeseen circumstances or things of that nature. But it would be good for this committee to share in the information that you have, for you to share that with us, I should say, in order that we can help you going forward. And we're appraised of where you're at and where you plan to be in the foreseeable future. Thank you very much.
Okay, Representative Pluker, we're back to you. I don't see any other hands.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was gonna just swinging back around to dairy. It sounds like there's a lot of balls in the air where, there's work being done on the regional level, there's work being done on the federal level, then there's just what's happening here in the state. And am I right in understanding that all of those balls are being caught by you, Commissioner, and you, Director McBrady, kind of simultaneously?
Well, I will say, I mean, yes, Nancy and I have been really involved in a lot of these conversations, but I also want to put a spotlight on Emily Horton, who has done a tremendous amount of work. We also have Craig Lapine in the Commissioner's office, who does special projects, and he has been very, very involved as well. So we do have, and other staff within the Bureau who have been engaged in different conversations. So it is a pretty broad, we've got a broad base of support here. But yeah, these are really complicated issues, and it requires a lot of communications internally. And also, as I spoke about, we've been trying, one of the things that we have kind of put at the center of any difficult issue that we're working on is communication out with stakeholders, and trying to collaborate and really leverage resources, not just from within the department, but to make sure that if there's opportunities for us to be working with other groups, other agricultural stakeholder groups, that we can kind of share the work, share the burden, and try to have the best response that we can for farmers.
Would it make sense long-term to have a central person within the department who's kind of coordinating the entire response? Because kind of both of you, I understand that you have a big team there that's all handling it, but it seems like that people are kind of adding it on to their jobs, which it's not their central job description. So if it was one person who was kind of the contact within the federal and contact within the regional, and then also, we just have like this, what might be more simple issues, but like issues around labor and creating processing infrastructure and doing marketing education. Somebody within department to kind of spearhead those efforts and move it forward, and doing the broader coordination that might be necessary to kind of stop the loss of the farms.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's something we can think and talk about more. It's not something that we've been thinking about in the immediate, time frame, but I think I would also say there are a number of areas within our department where it would be really nice to have additional capacity, whereas it is sort of the norm that as these emergent issues come up, that we don't really have any way of knowing that they're going to flare up or that they're going to emerge. The work gets spread across people who already have full plates. So and yes, this is one of those areas where that happens.
Thank you. Yeah, just looking at the loss of the farms over the last 3 years since we looked at the tier program again, and worried that we're going to end up in another 10 years in a place where we're just completely not able to sustain an industry. I'm worried about needing to take near-term action to kind of stem the tide in a way. You had mentioned a block grant program, as well as some other dairy marketing programs from the feds. Is that money that we might see this year?
That's a great question. I know, Nancy, you've been a little bit more tied into that conversation in the past couple of weeks. Maybe you can give us an update.
We would love to be able to see that happen this year, Representative Fluker. The recommendations from the Northeast Dairy Task Force were submitted to USDA at the very end of 2021. And we know that they are assessing it, looking at it, but we do not have a time horizon yet as to what they will turn around and provide as a response and prioritize action steps. We believe that there is intention within that group from Secretary Vilsack himself to prioritize this, to make tangible things happen as a result. We can share this report with you if you don't already have it. It runs the gamut, and there's some very sizable requests, and there are monetary dollars attached to it. So, and of course, the federal process has to go through the federal process. I'm hopeful that there will be sizable and actionable steps that come out of this, but we are waiting on USDA to kick off and turn around and lead that.
Yeah, and I neglected to mention also another person in our office who's been really involved in these discussions is Claire Eaton. She's the director of our natural resource markets and economic development work. And one of the things that she's done among many is that she has been vetting, in this process of challenges in dairy, there are folks that kind of come out of the woodwork and say, hey, we've got a business idea for your dairy farmers. And she's really been vetting those inquiries and trying to determine which ones seem like they would be a good fit and are worth passing along, and which ones don't seem to be on the mark for our farmers. So I just wanted to mention her work as well.
Thank you. That all sounds great and makes sense that we can't quite rely on the feds to to come through when we really need them. I was gonna pivot to PFAS unless there's other folks who wanted to ask questions.
I don't see any other hands, so go ahead.
I understand that the state is going to have a laboratory that can test for PFAS, maybe coming out of what details or information could you help me with that? Could you give me that?
Sure. And laboratory testing is a major issue. There is an intense amount of testing that is occurring by state agencies as well as private individuals within the state of Maine that has really caused there to become a backup in the labs within the New England and regional area, national labs too. So what would have been turnaround times of sometimes 3 to 5 days is now becoming 2 to 3 weeks. So there are discussions, and I'll allow Commissioner Beal to update on her end, but it's my understanding that the existing Heddle lab for the state lab, which is undergoing updates and construction remodeling updates right now, there will be laboratory space made for PFAS testing. And it's my understanding that there will be one specialized machine at this point in time for analysis, and ideally, the staffing for that. So that will be helpful. But the types of testing that are necessary stem from water to soil, which are relatively easy, to tissue, plant tissue, et cetera. And so we have been talking with the state, CDC has been talking, and Dr. Smith, et cetera, DEP, about what might be the focal point of that lab. Maybe it could do particular type of things that other labs aren't doing, for instance. So to answer your question, there will be one PFAS lab functionality within the state, which is wonderful, but more is needed. So Commissioner, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I do know in talking with Commissioner Loisem at DEP that there are some other labs, private labs in the state that are interested in gearing up and getting capacity to be part of the solution as well. So I think that those conversations are ongoing, and you may hear more about that in the future. But this is a very, very active conversation on a number of fronts, because the testing capacity is really critical, not only for Maine, but I kind of alluded to this in my talking points about PFAS, but Maine is on the leading edge of this level of PFAS response in the country. And this really is a national issue. We're just, we're kind of ahead of everybody. We're ahead of the infrastructure. We're ahead of the research. That makes it really challenging, but we're really committed to trying to find our way forward here. So I'm confident that if there were multiple labs that decided to gain capacity here in the state, that as other states start ramping up testing going forward, we would be seeing the opportunity for them to acquire business from outside of Maine as well. So I think it's a good business opportunity for these labs, unfortunately.
That all makes sense, and thanks so much for doing that work. Do we Just the question when we're not, do we think it's going to be 2022 that we're going to be up and running, or is this down the line?
I do believe, barring hopefully no construction delays, that the state laboratory will be up and running by November of this year.
Oh, cool. That's great. Do we have a sense? I know I've been hearing from a lot of farmers who've been affected by the DEP letters that went out saying that they're, on the various tiers of contamination. Do we have a sense of how many folks who are actively selling food have received those letters, and how many are affected within the state?
That's a really good question. I want to state that just because you've received a letter doesn't necessarily, there's more information that needs to be ascertained about whether or not there's contamination. That being said, I understand the devastation and the worry that farmers will encounter if they receive this letter. And so they're stuck in this, holding pattern of not necessarily knowing. And I want to acknowledge that place and that worry. I believe that there's at least 20 to 30 potential agricultural producers within that tier 1. However, sometimes there are multiple farm fields that relate to the same ownership, so there could be double counting. And so I want to, put an asterisk next to that, that remains to be clarified. But yes, there are certainly agricultural producers there, and DEP is conducting water testing. They have a whole process by which they are going out. They have teams. So they're moving forward with winter testing. Soil testing is difficult this season, obviously, with the ground being frozen. We are being kept in the loop very readily and steadily by DEP. We too are answering a lot of questions by our team as to what to do in the interim. To the extent, the DEP's water testing is going to be showing levels of concern, we, at least during the winter time, would be able to speak with these farms and possibly test their feed and other types of tests, weather dependent, at the same time, to start gathering information and help make assessments.
Great.
Yeah, and I will add to that, this is why it's also so important that we work with other agricultural service providers. And, we're really trying to just make sure people understand that we are here and we are, here to help these farmers. And, we're committed to that. And we do understand what an incredibly stressful situation this is. So we're just trying to get that message out to farmers so that they know that they can reach out to us if they have any questions or concerns. And I think the other thing I just want to, emphasize, Nancy has said this before, I'm not sure it's been in front of the committee, but, we can't make assumptions about whether or not a farm is going to have concerning levels of PFAS just based on what's on paper. There really does have to be ground truthing that happens. And we have had experiences where on paper, you could look at information about, similar farms and think that one or both are going to have a problem, and you go and test and you're not finding the levels of PFAS that would be problematic. So we're, it's just this discovery process. And again, like I said, we're really on the forefront of the research and of testing and understanding what all of this means. And so we're learning as we go, but we've learned a lot.
And thank you for being on the forefront and doing all that work. It makes me feel better. I know I've heard from folks who are like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Might be a DEP question, but what is the difference between this? Is it just a level of contamination?
It's the amount, the volume of residuals that may have been applied, that were permitted to be applied at that location, as well as the type, the source, and then proximity to drinking water resources, so receptors, excuse me. I do want to mention that tomorrow at 1 p.m. there will be an ag trade show presentation by this department, by me, the Department of Environmental Protection, and Maine CDC, giving an update on PFAS, and they will talk through the tier program. Sorry, the tier program. Through the tiers. And so I'm happy to provide Karen a link to that. And for those who would like to attend, it will be recorded as well, so we can ensure that that is provided to you all too.
Great, thank you. I love that link. And so I had LD 558 last session, creating this study program. And so now that we've had these DEP letters go out, we've seen the volume of farms affected. Does that affect kind of 558 and the report that's coming out of that?
I think it does, Representative. There is fluidity every day in terms of, gosh, we should be looking into this, and what about that? So I would ask that when the report is produced, you understand that it's a snapshot in time, and we're always thinking about other things that we would like to do. What has been really impressed upon me is that farmers really want to be able to know not necessarily how to pivot away from what they're doing and do something different, but what is it with my current fields, with my current crops that I need to adjust. So it's really the uptake studies and the alternative crop studies that are really important. And what we've been finding in the small studies that we've been doing, and I say we as the royal we, the state, the CDC, in collaboration also with MOFGA, soil uptake into hay and into corn, particularly when it comes to grasses, it is incredibly variable information. And so it just begets more research and more trials around that. But we do need to enter new territory around other forage crops. What else might there be? And that, I think, is necessary to be on the horizon. Meanwhile, for those that do have incredibly high levels, or high levels that wouldn't allow for, say, pivoting to corn and corn silage and snaplage and earlage, we do need to think about alternatives. What does that look like for entering Christmas trees, for potentially horticulture, potentially solar? And so those are the things that we also need to dig into. I've been very pleased that the University of Maine has been really receptive in reaching out to their researchers to bring forward suggestions. So we're still in the gathering process, and it's going to be a sprint to the finish, but we hope to be able to provide you with a list of things that we have on the horizon. And frankly, with the budget support from this legislature, we're hopeful that we can jumpstart a couple of things without having to go through a budget process too.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the report. Is there a particular person at the department? So if I'm being contacted by farmers who are getting these letters from DEP, is there somebody at DACF that they should be talking to?
Yes, absolutely. We have two folks on the ground who are ag compliance officers. Matt Randall has been the head of this effort, working directly with farmers. And then Duncan Thaler, who is our new hire, and is getting up to speed really, really quickly as well. Their information will be provided during the conversation tomorrow that we have, and I'm happy to supply them to you too as well, Representative.
Great. And then my last question, I swear, is have we been looking, there are some formulations of herbicides and pesticides that have some PFAS or some fluorinated atoms included, and that we don't know exactly what the fluorination turns into at this stage. We also know that there's some, PFAS can be created through the storage, how these items are stored. Has that been part of the conversation at all within the department when we're looking at how to mitigate PFAS contamination going forward?
Yes, it has. We are definitely seeing that there is a new area opening involving PFAS. and the report that was presented by BPC really goes through the process that staff have done to try and get their arms around understanding how to collect information and how to define it, and really also looking at what the federal government is doing, and also highlighting the challenges that this presents because of the fact that testing for pesticides containing PFAS is really new. And extremely intricate. So it is something that we are constantly thinking about, and we just have to broaden our conversations and our thinking as we move forward. But with your bill last session, that has started, and we know more now than we did then. So I would just say that it's something that we're constantly thinking about, and we're moving forward with it as best we can. But it is vast and potentially very impactful, and so we just need to be thoughtful and do our due diligence as we continue to learn more.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us today.
Are there other questions? Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask Director Cormier for an update on everything for the aerial spraying review. I know that we had gotten an email asking for, because I think everything was due the 2nd of January, but I'm sure you guys have lots going on, and we gave an extension to the end of or mid-end of February, but I wanted to kind of get a summary of what you've been doing. And I saw an email, I think from this morning, about gathering public comments. So I just wondered if you could just go through each of the steps you've gone through now and what's left to do.
So sure. Yes, as you, good to see everyone, by the way. As you said, this next Friday, the 21st, is a public comment session from 5:30 to 7. And please promote that where you can. The report is on our website, and we have been working. Megan Patterson of Bureau of Pesticides Control has been the lead on this resolve, and she worked. I can let Nancy come in when she wants on that, but she has been working very hard with Dr. Thistle on this report and receiving comments from the stakeholder group for that. But the important thing is next Friday. That's when, and the link is on our website, and for everyone to look and provide comments for that.
I'm happy to add, or Commissioner, is there anything you'd like to add?
Go right ahead.
The report, as Director Cormier just mentioned, is final, or in its draft final version, and has been posted not only to the Board of Pesticides website, but as Director Cormier just mentioned, MFS as well. To be clear, because of the length and breadth of this report, well over 70 pages, well over 100 pages, I think, we needed to ensure that there was a proper amount of time for public digestion and review and comment, which is why we asked to extend this out so that there would be appropriate time for that. And then we didn't want to rush it. So that was the thinking in asking for that extension, to allow for the valuable public review and comment process. But we're also happy to send the link for that report to this committee too, so that you have it, and also encourage everyone to participate on the 21st. That information is also on the Board of Pesticides Control website.
Thank you. Would you be able to go through the steps that you've gone through so far to get to that report? I don't know, whoever would do that.
I think that would best be presented by Director Patterson. I just do know that ultimately the resolve directed very specific areas of focus for this report to be garnered. And over the course of the last 6 months, they endeavored to do that, as well as input by the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. They contracted with experts, third parties, to look at particular areas of the aerial spraying physics and distribution, and then pulling that all together with an overview of the report and the process that will be actually in the report at the very front. There's an executive summary of the steps that were taken. So I'll leave it there. I know that is extremely high level, but ultimately they did shepherd all of those moving parts over the last 6 months to pull this together and post the current draft for public review.
Thank you. So if I want to ask questions about like the testing that was done and things like that, Director Patterson would be a good person to set up a time with. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Representative Pluker.
I was going through the BPC site just now and I didn't find it. Doesn't mean it probably is there. I'm just not finding it. So if you guys could just email it out, the link, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. I believe it's under the agenda items for the upcoming board meeting. But yeah, it's a very chock-a-block web page. There's a lot there.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I want to thank everybody for presenting this morning and answering our questions. That was great. It's a good way to start out our session for the year. We got, several things coming up in front of us. So this is a good lead in, and I'm sure there'll be more things popping up as we go along, especially around the whole PFAS issue and other things. So if there are no other questions, Karen, do you have anything for us?
I always start by saying not really, and then I go on to talk. I just wanted to mention.
Oops, hold it before you go.
Yeah.
Representative O'Neill, do you have a
Thank
question?
you. We have such a breadth of topics. It's you saying PFAS just reminded me I had a question, and I'm not sure who to pose it to, but we didn't discuss water quality in this committee, and I'm just wondering if somebody could tell me if I have questions who I could reach out to talk about drinking water quality in my community.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to follow up with you, Representative. That would be a DEP inquiry, and I'm happy to link you up with those folks.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Representative Osher.
I just gave me great joy to hear about the committee meeting about soil carbon incentives for soil carbon storage. And it was new to me to hear that the university was involved. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more about that if that's possible.
Yes, I can say a little bit more about that, but we have another meeting coming up where we're really going to lay out the scope of what we're doing together. But we had an opportunity to apply for some funding from the U.S. Climate Alliance, and we were successful in getting that funding. And I want to say, acknowledge the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future. They really helped us with that process as well. And so that gave us some funding to be able to engage with the university and really be able to bring in some expertise to help us to make sure that we're doing a thorough review here of the charges that were laid out in that piece of legislation that you were the lead sponsor on, Representative Osher. So thank you so much for that. I can certainly get more information to you on the breakdown of how we're approaching this work after we have this next conversation.
Oh, thank you very much. And I'm so glad to hear that GoPIF assisted with getting that grant funding.
There are other questions. All right. Yes, Commissioner, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say, if you have questions after today, please don't hesitate to reach out on any of these issues. We're happy to, get the information that you need. And I just want to say thank you so much for the work that you all do. It's really wonderful to work with you, and we look forward to a good, productive session ahead.
Great, thank you. And before I go back to Karen, if there are no other questions, we'll let the department go so they don't have to sit here while we discuss whatever, unless they so want to, but that's up to them. So I don't see any other hands waving at me or anyone with no questions.
Actually, what I was going to mention, they may want to hear as well.
Okay.
So I'm noticing on the testimony submission portal, we're not really, there's no problem submitting testimony. However, when a person goes to open the document, you'll get it. It's often the case, not always, you'll get an internal server error message. And we're not sure why this is happening this session, because it was working fine in the first regular. But just to let you know, just give it a few minutes and eventually you'll be able to open the file. I did notice when I posted the draft plan relating to ending hunger, I tried to open it immediately and I got that error message. So I just want to let folks know that, and I know Representative Pluker often utilizes the electronic file for bills. So just to make you aware that, IT knows it's an issue and they're working on it, but you can eventually, after a few minutes, access the file. And another thing I would mention, Representative Osher's question about the carbon storage programs or policies, that there is an interim report that is coming from the departments of ACF and IF&W. That report is not due until March 1st, the interim report, and then there's a final report in September this year as well. So maybe at that time, in March, if you want to schedule a briefing by those departments, if the committee wants that, we can do that.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Anything else, Karen?
We started 11 o'clock on Tuesday with a public hearing and then a couple of briefings.
Right. That's right. I thank you for reminding that. Just so everyone knows, we will be moving to starting our committee meetings at 11 next week on Tuesdays and Thursdays rather than 9. So with that, I don't think there's anything else then to come before us. Cheryl, do you have anything for us?
I do not.
Someone want to make a motion to adjourn our committee? It's been moved by Representative Schofield. Is there a second? I see.
Second.
It's been seconded. All in favor? None opposed. We are done. Thank you all.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
A great weekend.
Yes.
Yes,
Long weekend.
do. A long weekend. Take care, Cheryl.
You too. Bye-bye.